When you see images of the Israeli occupation, it's easy to focus on the tanks, the checkpoints, the barbed wire. But there's another story hidden in plain sight, written on every face, etched into every home. There is a Palestinian story, yes, but also an Israeli story. What do Israelis really think about the occupation? What is life like under threat? Most important, what can we learn from their experience? I lived in Israel for several months trying to understand their story. The result is this. So let's start at the beginning. Imagine living in a country where sirens could send you running for cover in seconds, where your morning coffee might be interrupted by news of a bombing, and where military service isn't a choice, but a shared chapter of life. This is Israel, a land smaller than New Jersey, surrounded by neighbors who, well, let's just say they don't get along. Every Israeli lives with hope, yes, but also fear. The hope of peace, the fear of the next attack. Behind the headlines, what do Israelis really feel about this conflict? And what can we learn from their struggle? Let's find out. In 1948, the modern state of Israel was born. But it wasn't a peaceful birth. It was fire and blood. Less than 1 million Jews faced 5 invading armies. Many were refugees, Holocaust survivors who'd lost entire families. Think about it. Nearly every family carried trauma. Grandparents with tattooed numbers on their arms, fathers missing in war. Fear of destruction wasn't theoretical. It was personal, carved into family stories around every dinner table. That history doesn't end in 1948. It continues today. Rockets still fall. At age 18, almost every young Israeli puts on a uniform. Not as a symbol, but because attacks have hit buses, cafes, families. When peace talks fail, it's not abstract. It's the fear your friend might not come home from patrol tonight. For Israelis, the conflict isn't just about land. It's about existence. A land where your grandparents survived genocide, where every neighbor once vowed to push you into the sea that shapes your worldview. Fast forward to today, Israel is a modern, high-tech nation, yet rockets still fall. At age 18, almost every young Israeli puts on a uniform. Not as a symbol, but because attacks have taken buses, cafes, families. When peace talks fail, it's not abstract. It's the fear your friend might not come home from patrol tonight. I met many Israelis from different backgrounds, some religious, some not. Some on the political left, some on the right. And I asked them all the same question. What is life like under threat? Their answers surprised me. Here's what I heard. Israelis often say, we can't afford to lose even once. For them, conflict isn't about territory, it's about existence. A land where your grandparents survived genocide, where every neighbor once vowed to push you into the sea that shapes your worldview. As a kid, I grew up hearing about Israel's wars, but it always felt far away. When I visited Israel, I realized it's part of everyday life. My first few days there, I kept wondering, when will I meet a Palestinian? When will I see the occupation? But then I realized I had already met an Israeli. A friendly guide named Aviv showed me around Jerusalem. He told me about his 2 sons, his work as a software engineer. Then he mentioned something casually. At night, I sometimes take shifts at the West Bank checkpoint near my home. You know, just in case. That's when it hit me. The occupation isn't just tanks and checkpoints. It's a shadow hanging over everyday life. It's your friendly guide guarding a checkpoint at night. It's a father teaching his son to throw a grenade. It's a husband waving to his wife from a hilltop outpost. I remember sitting at a cafe in Jerusalem, sipping strong Turkish coffee and watching the clouds drift by. Beside me sat Noam, an Israeli journalist. We were discussing the ongoing conflict, and he said something that really struck me. Sometimes I feel like the Palestinians are our generation's curse. We can't seem to escape this conflict. It's always there, looming over us. His words echoed the sentiment I'd heard from so many Israelis. The feeling that the conflict was a heavy weight on their shoulders, passed down from one generation to the next. Then I met a Holocaust survivor named Sarah. Her eyes, though aged, held a fire that refused to be dimmed. She shared her story of loss and survival, of escaping the horrors of the past only to find new fears in a new land. We never imagined, she said, her voice trembling slightly, that we would live through another war, another genocide. But here we are. It feels like the world doesn't want us to be free. Her words were a stark reminder of the weight of history, how the echoes of the past continue to shape the present. And as I walked the ancient streets of Jerusalem, I couldn't help but think of the countless stories, the hopes, the fears, the dreams, and the traumas that have shaped this land and its people. But Israelis aren't just defined by their fears. We're also defined by their resilience, their creativity, and their unwavering hope for a better future. They've built a thriving democracy in the heart of a volatile region. They've made scientific, technological, and cultural contributions that enrich the world. And they've welcomed immigrants from all corners of the globe, creating a truly diverse society. Here's what I found most striking. Israelis grapple with the occupation too. They ask tough questions. Why is my friend in prison without trial? Why can't my neighbor travel freely? Why does the world support him and not me? And the saddest thing I heard, what if we are the bad guys? One evening, I joined a group of Israeli teenagers for Shabbat dinner. We ate hummus, pita, and grilled chicken, and we talked about everything from school to the conflict. One girl, Dana, voiced what many Israelis think. We have the best technology, the smartest people, should be able to solve this conflict, but we can't. It's like there's this wall, this invisible force that keeps us apart. That's when I realized Israelis aren't just victims of circumstance. They're active participants in shaping their reality. They organize protests, write to their leaders, and vote in elections. They debate, they disagree, but they do it all within the framework of democracy. It was during Ramadan that I really saw this spirit in action. As I walked the streets of Jerusalem, I witnessed the Muslim community celebrating their holiday. But I also saw Israelis of all backgrounds coming together to share in the festive spirit. It was a powerful reminder that despite the conflict, life goes on. People pray, eat, laugh, and hope for a better tomorrow. One Israeli woman summed it up beautifully. We may live in a bubble of fear, but outside that bubble, life still blooms. We have amazing food, vibrant art, and passionate music. We laugh, we cry, we love. We are a nation born in fear, but we refuse to let fear define us. I left Israel with a profound sense of admiration for the strength, resilience, and humanity of its people. I realized that behind the headlines and the politics, there are real lives being lived, lives filled with hopes, dreams, and fears. Just like us, Israelis are complex, contradictory, and deeply human. They are both strong and afraid, proud and ashamed, hopeful and disillusioned. Perhaps the most important lesson I learned is that the Israeli occupation is not just a political issue. It is a human issue. It affects real people with real stories. It's the young mother wondering if her child will grow up in fear or freedom. The teenage boy dreaming of a life beyond the checkpoints. The elderly man looking back on a century of struggle. So the next time you hear about the Israeli occupation, remember that there are faces behind the words. They deserve to be seen, heard, and understood. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Your support means the world to us. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss any of our new videos. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.